Welcome to Star Citizen. We have many different types of ship in this game. From military purpose light fighters to bigger military ships. We got transports from pretty small vessels to gigantic beasts. And there's quite a few more in between. Scouting, stealth, dropships and so on. But one of the smaller vessels I have trouble seeing the future for is luxury ships that are the size of light fighters. Of course, they just can be some fancy ships that fill the light fighter's role. The reason I am wondering about this is simple. The Crusader Industries' new Spirit series, E1, is the kind of luxurious transport which they probably will have a gameplay loop for. The question is, how would a light fighter or ship like this fill that role? This is Origin 85X, two-seater light fighter or, well, two-seater luxury ship. Now, if a player needs transport, sure, this can be pretty nice. The other player is forced to sit down and he can't really do much else if you are worried about losing something and so on. But from PvE perspective or the missions, contacts they're gonna give us, which will perhaps allow us to do some luxurious sightseeing, just basically checkpoint visiting is the best way I could imagine it. Having a single person on your ship like that, it's probably not gonna make you too much money. Maybe it's a VIP, you'll earn more, or let's say it's a specific person needs a luxurious transport from point A to point B and it's nothing to do with something like sightseeing. There are many ways this could be indeed implemented, but in none of them I would imagine myself doing these transports, tours, call them what you will, with this small ship. Not to say that transport for passengers or sightseeing won't be a gameplay loop or missions that we can do. Would anything like this ever serve any value? I could imagine myself doing it with some transport variant of, let's say, a freelancer ship, or perhaps even Hercules, but I couldn't really imagine myself doing something like that with one-seater. I guess you could say the same about the trade with some of these ships that have 2 or 3 units of cargo space. And some of these smaller ships that are considered light freight, and still the ships you really wouldn't do light freight with. At the moment, these little ships, they don't really serve pretty much any purpose. They are fancy, you can get from point A to point B, they have some light weapons. They really aren't that good at fighting. They are somewhat maneuverable, of course they are light fighters, but they equally are as fragile. Now that being said, the biggest problem for me would be, of course, that you cannot really store anything on your ship. The access to inventory doesn't exist. Although the ship is luxurious and beautiful outside, perhaps even interesting in its aerodynamic properties, I feel there are better ships to go for. Of course, this is probably one of the cheapest ships in the game. It's nothing too expensive, it's nothing too powerful. It is beautiful, which is what many newer players probably will go for. The luxury loop, or the aspect of luxury on this ship for any future gameplay loop of transport, is not something I would ever see being profitable or even fun doing with this kind of a small ship. Now, all of that being said, there are of course many of these luxurious ships that may have been meant for combat, that may have been meant for transport or so on. But when it's put in the exploration bracket, I would assume there would be some kind of a game element that at the moment isn't implemented. And the best way I could describe it for ships like this would be the passenger transport. Or perhaps luxury transport, VIP transport. So I would never see anyone doing it with this small ship. And therefore I don't really understand the need for such a ship to be a luxurious ship. I would rather love to have it as perhaps a luxurious combat ship. But if I would compare it to Aurora, I think I would still pick Aurora because that has some interior. I believe Aurora might even move slightly better, maneuver slightly better. It may not be as fast, but I would still take it over this to fill all the roles that I would like. Now the gameplay loop for a ship like this of course isn't in the game yet. They may make it really interesting, where some of these ships may actually have some roles, have some value, but somehow I doubt it, and the bigger ships will probably be a lot more preferable for those kinds of missions or gameplay loops. Anyway, thanks for watching.